What's up, everyone? I'm Tracy. I'm 15, only a child. Not sure where to start. Here it goes. My family has a medical history of some weird disease. My aunt and grandma died a short time after noticing a black spot on their legs. My entire family has been terrified of black spots after their passing, myself included. So I learned to respect the feelings of others from my parents. My mom and dad are like super polite and never say anything rude to people. For example, some random guy broke down on the side of the road and opened up his entire life to my parents. And they just stood there and listened to his blatantly pathetic story. And then my dad turned around and handed him a $100 bill. My parents' goodwill to men mentality has helped my family build bonds with others. My parents also taught me to put others before myself, and the difference between needs and wants. I want the newest iPhone, but I don't necessarily need it, whereas I need water, but never want to drink it. Makes sense? So the best part of school life was hanging out with my friends. I remember being crazy in love with this one guy named Jeff. I couldn't get the beautiful creature off my mind. A smile to die for, OMG. He was so hot. Jeff always seemed to be doing something for somebody else. I admired him for that. The only thing bad he had going for him was his snooty girlfriend, Linda. I asked myself over and over, out of all of the girls in the world, why her? I mean, yeah, she was pretty, sort of, but she was far from perfect. She was actually really salty with everyone. I honestly felt like she was just using Jeff for his car. Shiny black Mustang. A true head-turner. Linda wanted to be seen in it. Nothing more or less. I wondered if Jeff really loved her for her. Or maybe he was just smitten by her superficial beauty. I never ended up telling Jeff about my feelings for him. There were times when he'd stroll by me in the hall and I'd have to restrain myself from swiveling my head around to look at him. I was never very good at expressing my true feelings for anyone, especially Miss Stevens, a large, stern-looking Greek woman. Stevens was a good mom to her sons, Sam and Luke, but she had a nasty habit of skimping on pay. I'd babysit for like 6 hours and only get paid for 5, sometimes even 4 measly hours. But my parents taught me to respect my elders, and so I never confronted Miss Stevens about shortchanging me. Anyway, on paydays, I'd just bite my tongue and walk home royally pissed. One evening, I'm Netflix and chillin' when I notice a marble-sized black spot on my left leg. Yikes! I must have blacked out or something because for a few long seconds, I couldn't think straight. I'm staring down at my leg, and in the back of my mind are my aunt and my grandma and the ugly black dots that symbolized their deaths. I continued to stare at the black thingy on my leg, and it appeared to be staring back at me with a mission. And then I began to wonder how it got there. No matter how hard I picked and poked at the thing, it wouldn't budge. And now I'm scared to death. The palms of my hands got all sweaty. I actually thought I was going to die. I switched on my laptop, heart pounding, and then I began to search Dr. Google for any and everything related to black dots. As I skimmed over headlines, several words jumped out at me. Lethal, death, disease. Unable to hold in my emotions any longer, I burst out into tears. I cried the whole day, believing in my heart that my life was going to end. I realized after a while that time is very important. So I stopped crying and made a conscious decision to take care of a few things. The very first thing I did was call my mom. I told my mom that I was bored and I was coming over to chill with the family. After getting to my parents' house, we jumped in my dad's Honda and hit the road. We went out to eat at our favorite restaurant, and I ordered my favorite chili dog with fries. No sooner than I started to eat The ugly black dot began to plague my mind. I'm chewing, and then I start to regurgitate and can taste vomit inside my mouth. Nasty. I ended up having to excuse myself from the table. Last thing I wanted to do was to throw up all over my parents' priceless steak dinner. Vomiting incident aside, having dinner with my parents turned out really well, but my voice was still emotional, and I started to cry when I told my parents how much I loved and respected them. Smiling warmly, my mom reached across the table and dried my tears with her fingers. Determined to make the most of what little time I had left on Earth, I decided to pay Miss Stevens a little visit. After getting to her house, I just wanted to get it all out. And so I courageously explained to Mrs. Stevens that I wouldn't be around to babysit, and I wanted to get paid for the extra time I had put in over the past year. She gave me the dirtiest look, but ended up rudely slamming 3 $20 bills in my hand. Truth is, I had allowed Mrs. Stevens to take advantage of me for far too long. My bad. The next day, I just so happened to bump into Linda standing outside the library. She stood there and stared at me like I was stupid. Her unwelcoming gaze didn't faze me from what I was about to do next. I walked over to her, looked her square in the eyes, and calmly told her how much I hated her. And then I gave her a good old-fashioned lesson on morals and values and how to treat people. At the mention of Jeff's name, if looks could kill, I would have dropped dead then and there. My final words to Linda were, "Bye, Felicia." Oozing with sarcasm and waving goodbye, I walked away, feeling her gaze on me as I entered the library. I grabbed a couple of books inside the library, then headed home. As I'm walking out of the library, I see Linda and Jeff locked in an embrace. Deep down inside, I know Linda set the whole thing up. She saw me walk into the library, which means I had to walk out of the library. I marched right up to Linda and Jeff and blurted out my true feelings for him. I stood right in the center of the action and told Jeff how much I loved and wanted to be with him. I went a step further, too. I let Jeff know exactly how I felt about his superficial girlfriend. I then hauled off and punched Linda straight in the nose. Before Jeff could jump in and help his girlfriend, I wrapped my arms around him and kissed him straight on the lips. Little did I know, a bunch of people had gathered around, fully tuned in. To my surprise, everyone started clapping. That was probably one of the most embarrassing yet proud moments of my life. In that very moment, I felt free as a bird. More importantly, I learned a valuable lesson in the coming weeks. Days passed, and the closer I got to my doctor's appointment, the more confused and scared I felt. I was going to die, yet I was living the best days of my life. What I didn't expect was the closer I got to the doctor's appointment, the lighter the spot became. And not only did the doctor say I wasn't going to die, but that the spot would disappear completely. I was exhilarated to know that I was not going to die, and that was all I wanted right now, to just live. I don't know if Jeff will ever love me, or if Linda will ever forgive me, or if Miss Stevens will ever change her ways, but I don't care too much about it anymore. I cherish the here and now moments of my life and believe in living my life to the fullest. I'm still careful about not hurting others, but I definitely let others know when they hurt me.
Hi, my name's Raven. I live with my mom, Flora, my dad, Michael, and my little sister, Cassie. I'm a musician, and that's always made me feel like kind of a black sheep in my super athletic family. My dad, Michael, is the high school gym teacher. My mother is a former tennis pro. My sister is the point guard. And then there's me. I'm different, but I've always felt like I still belonged. That is until the day we moved. Mom hauled out a rickety chest, and what was inside brought smiles to all of our faces. Boxes of childhood photos. It was a really sweet moment, looking at all the things we had done together. But I realized most of the photos were at sporting events. I was even crying in some of them. What was in the bottom of the chest took my breath away. My birth certificate. But something was off. Aaron was written in one of the rows, a name I'd never heard. I reached down for it, and my mom slammed the chest shut. What was she hiding? Later that night, when everyone was asleep, I tiptoed up the staircase into the attic. Every step up the stairs, I felt like I was doing something wrong. My parents loved me, They would never hide anything from me. I tried to talk myself out of opening the chest. Finally, I opened the lid. When I found Aaron on the birth certificate, my whole world came crashing down. It felt like my head was spinning. 𝗕𝗔𝗦𝗬𝗘𝗦 was listed as my father, but my dad's name wasn't Aaron. My last name wasn't even 𝗕𝗓𝗏. The man I thought was my father wasn't. A light flicked on behind me, and my parents stood in the doorway of the attic. Tears were welling in my mother's eyes. "We were going to tell you," she said. The man who raised me put his arms out to hug me, but I shoved him away. I snapped. "You're not my father. Don't touch me." Tears streamed down his face, tears I had never seen before. But I felt such betrayal, such a rage burning in me that I couldn't have cared less. It's no wonder I'm not like you guys. I'm not even his. My mom tried to tell me I was no different than Cassie, that I was their daughter regardless of my blood, but I couldn't bear to listen. If they had lied about my dad, what else were they prepared to lie about? I blew past them and slammed the door to my bedroom, locking it. I pulled up my laptop and typed a name into social media, 𝗕𝗔𝗦𝗬𝗘𝗦. He looked exactly like me, and best of all, he was a musician like me. His photos showed him rocking out on guitar, fearless and confident. It was no wonder I felt like a black sheep. I wasn't like this family. I was like him, like my real dad. He had a post talking about a show he had in town the next night. The idea of finally meeting him is what lulled me to sleep. The next day, I couldn't look at my mom, or my dad, when I came down later for lunch. Had my mom cheated on my dad with my biological father? Did they know about each other? I begged silently that Aaron would answer the questions, because the idea of talking to anyone else about it made me sick. I slammed the door without saying a word and hurried onto a bus to go downtown for the show. I daydreamed the entire way about meeting my dad. Had he missed me? Would he look at me and just know? Did my mom even tell him about me? I nestled into the crowd at a grimy venue, waiting for him to take the stage. Finally, he stepped out, just like I imagined. He was a rock god on stage. He even had the same mannerisms I did. I felt myself buzzing as I watched him play the full set. We could be a father-daughter band. He could teach me all the things my parents couldn't. When the set ended, I hovered by the edge of the stage. He finally made eye contact with me, and I didn't know what to do. I fumbled for my birth certificate in my pocket and handed it to him, shaking. He gave a sad smile at the birth certificate, then at me. "I knew this day would come, Raven," he said, but his voice was disappointed. Wasn't he excited to see me? Aaron led me to sit down. He started to tell me the truth, but it felt like he was far away. "Your mother and I dated in high school. I wasn't a good match for her, but we were crazy about each other. She got pregnant with you and..." His voice trailed off here. Was it regret in his eyes? Embarrassment? "I ran off. I didn't want to be a father, Raven, and I still don't. That's when Michael stepped in. He was there when you were born, you know." I felt my whole new reality slip away. Aaron, my real dad, he didn't want me. I tried to talk him into raising me. I tried to tell him about my music, but he just took my hand and shook his head. "You're not Michael's daughter by blood, but you are his daughter where it really counts." With that, Aaron rose out of his chair, grabbed his guitar, and walked away. I didn't take the bus back home. I walked through the rain-slicked streets, tears streaming down my face. My real dad didn't want me. My family had lied to me. But then I started thinking about what Aaron said. Sure, my parents had lied, and sure, they were different from me, but they showed up to every concert I had, every music recital. Michael had even helped me take my first steps. Did it really matter who was my biological father? Didn't the person who raised me matter more? I stopped under an awning. My wet hair stuck to my face, my feet were soaked, and suddenly I felt terrible about everything I had said to my parents. A familiar car pulled up behind me. Michael sprinted from behind the wheel with my mom close behind. "I was so worried about you," Michael said. "You've always been my daughter. You'll always be my daughter, no matter what." I let myself cry and let my parents embrace me. "I'm sorry, Dad," I said. My parents apologized for lying, and they didn't have any excuses. They admitted it was wrong, and they should have told me, but I forgive them. And I can only hope they've forgiven me for the things I said too. No matter how we're related, the people around me who love me are my family. My dad may not be my biological father, but he's always loved me. He's always been there, and he'll always be there. Isn't that what family is?
Hi, my name is Annie. So my family is really rich, like really rich. I go to the best school and literally have the best friends, or so I thought. At school, everyone admires me. Even my teachers treat me with more respect than all the other students, except Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole was our math teacher. He would give assignments and send anyone who failed the exercise or anyone who didn't do the assignment to detention. After class on Monday, Mr. Cole gave everyone yet another exercise. I normally do these exercises with Jess and Cassie. Jess and Cassie lived a few blocks away from me. They were more intelligent than I was, and I knew it. So I would often get gifts for them anytime my parents traveled. This wasn't a strategy to buy their friendship, honestly. I just like to appreciate people who are nice to me. I hung out with Jess and Cassie during lunch out that day and met up in the evening to finish the exercise and chill. "Hey Jess, the first exercise is really hard. Could you put me through?" I asked. "No," she snapped. "I'm busy doing mine. I'm tired of always putting my stuff on hold because the almighty Annie wants something done." This was pretty shocking. Like, what did I do? I politely asked for her assistance. What could possibly be wrong with that? Cassie was surprised as well. "That was rude, Jess," Cassie added. I wasn't familiar with people speaking to me like that. No one ever raised their voice at me, and I was not about to take any of that BS from Jess. I told Cassie goodnight and left. "Who needs your help anyway?" I murmured under my breath. I can get through Mr. Cole's detention for a day. I was so upset. I wanted to teach her a lesson. I sat on my bed fuming, and then I had a perfect idea. My birthday was coming up, and I wanted to have a grand party. I would have my party without inviting Jess. So the next day at school, I sat across from Jess. I got Cassie some pretty shoes for my closet. I wanted to make Jess feel bad for what she said. Just when I was about to give Jess the shoes, Mr. Cole walked into the classroom. I felt like someone just drenched me in cold water. I knew he was going to call all defaulters out. He started to call for assignments, and when it got to my turn, I lied that I got sick from food poisoning the night before. He looked like he believed me, but minutes later, he asked me to go to the study room. Detention. I walked in stealthily. It was my first time there. I quickly scanned the room, and there were about 10 people. I walked up to Rebecca's seat. She was sitting with a couple of her friends. "Hey guys, mind if I sit here?" I didn't do Mr. Cole's exercise. "Yeah, sure," the red hair replied. "You can sit anywhere you like. We all know who you are." I laughed. "What does that even mean?" Rebecca smirked and replied, "Your family is stupid rich and powerful. You can sit everywhere and anywhere you want. In fact, you can do anything you want in this school. And it would look much better if at least you don't act clueless about it." I was having a long day and wasn't in the mood to argue with Rebecca about something that absurd. I mean, I kinda understood where it was coming from. My family was rich indeed, and she must have been super jealous since hers aren't. Plus, my 16th birthday was coming up, and she was not invited, which must have made her even more jealous. The only thing on my mind at that moment was how shall I plan my birthday? I was so excited, and nothing was going to ruin my mood. The week ended really quick, and plans for my 16th birthday were on full speed. I was going to host the party at home in our magnificent mansion. The party was going to be the most talked about in the whole school. My 16th birthday bash at the residence of my famous family. I knew people called me rich, but now they would get to see what affluence was. I laid out my plans to my mom, and she was elated. "It's going to be beautiful, my love," she said. I sent Cassie a text to let her know I was bringing invites to school. I copied Jess in the text and later deleted her contact. She had refused to apologize to me, and as long as she didn't apologize, she wasn't considered a friend. I sent out digital invites and posted invite stickers on the boards at school. My invite read, "Party with the famous Annie, 16 and rich. you better not miss. There was a boy I had a crush on, though. I think he liked me, too. I personally went to deliver my invitation to him. Hey, Josh, you know you can't miss my party, right? This Saturday. I want you there. Josh stared at the invite and smirked. What kind of an invite is this? 16 and rich? Really? You've got to be kidding me. I laughed over it. I mean, it was for jokes, and it wasn't even a lie. Saturday came really fast, and I got dressed before people started to arrive. The party was at 2 p.m. At 2 p.m., I called 𝗕𝗔𝗦𝗬𝗘𝗦, but she didn't pick up. I started to get worried. An hour passed, and no one had shown up. I tried to give excuses for everyone, saying they stalled but would be here soon. At 5 p.m., my cousin showed up. He asked me where everyone was, and I burst into tears. No one is here. No one, I said while I sobbed. I took off my party dress and went to cry in bed. I couldn't believe no one came. I was mad at Jess and Cassie. I blamed them for everything. My dad came by to give me a birthday present, but he met me drenched in my tears. I narrated what happened, and he was extremely furious. Who dares do this to you? I'll make them pay. I'll make your whole school pay for this. Don't they know who we are? He blurted out in anger. My dad's reaction scared me, so I asked him, what does he mean by that? My dad sat beside me and said, Cassie, you are a big girl now, and it's about time you know the truth about our family. While you must believe that all of our money and power comes from the business, it was only what we wanted you to believe. The truth is, my family has been one of the most powerful mafias in the area since you were young, and that might have been the reason why no one showed up to your birthday today. I laughed and said that's impossible. If such a thing were true, my friends would have said something about it. My dad frowned and said, Don't you get it, Cassie? I'm telling you they are afraid of us. No one would even dare to talk to you about it. My dad's words put me in shock. I could not believe what he was saying. My family? A mafia? It can't be. How could I have been so blind to see the truth? And suddenly, everything started to make sense. It was the reason why everyone was extra nice to me, and I never faced any trouble. They didn't respect or like me. They feared me. And the truth was that I had no real friends at all. I was angry at my father and my whole family. They were the reason I was in this situation. I realized I was such a brat for thinking people were jealous of my awesome family, while at that moment, I was wishing I had a different one.